Hey guys, just wanted to hop on tonight and talk a little bit about pregnancy, postpartum, and weightlifting. It's coming to you on Tuesday instead of Wednesday or Thursday because of the holiday this week. And feel free to ignore my voice. I'm just getting over a cold, so it's a little bit squeaky. Yeah, my husband's been laughing at me for the past couple of days, and I gotta admit it's kind of entertaining. So, tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about when you should bring the weightlifting belt back after having a baby. So, first, I want to touch on what the purpose of the weightlifting belt is for people who may not be quite as familiar with it or don't use it very frequently. So the purpose is to increase the pressure inside your abdomen, which basically can allow you to then lift more weight because you have a more solid core to lift from. So, but one of the things to be aware of is that increasing the pressure in your abdomen does increase the pressure on your pelvic floor. So sometimes bringing the belt back in can cause more incontinence or difficulty with incontinence or cause some symptoms to occur that previously weren't there before. So bringing the belt back in needs to be done gradually and needs to be done at a certain range out where the pelvic floor has healed and is doing a lot better. So first off, I want to go over how to brace with a belt because I've seen it done incorrectly quite a bit with people who've come to see me. And when you brace incorrectly with a belt, you're actually putting more pressure on the pelvic floor, which is causing you to be more likely to have incontinence symptoms. And sometimes the fix is just as simple as bracing differently and bracing correctly, and that can fix a lot of symptoms. So when you're bracing, you want to be bracing inwards. It seems counterintuitive because you're wearing a belt, so you think you want to push outwards, but you don't push outwards into the belt to the point where your stomach is like kind of popping out above or below. That's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to contract your stomach muscles, so your abdominal muscles, and contracting those muscles increases the volume of those muscles, which then increases the pressure on the belt because the muscles are bigger. And that increase in pressure and using the weightlifting belt like that is what allows you to then reflexively, your pelvic floor muscles will automatically contract because you contracted your stomach muscles inwards like that, and that can help with incontinence instead of simply just pushing out. You also don't want to bear down, so push downwards. This one makes a little bit more intuitive sense, but most women associate bearing down with doing a pelvic floor muscle contraction, so like pushing downwards or pushing outwards, and in reality that's also placing more stress on the pelvic floor, and that's not going to help incontinence. That can make it worse potentially if it's there, but it's definitely not going to help it. So when you're bracing, you want to contract the muscles and brace inwards, and that contraction of the muscles then causes more volume, which pushes out against the belt, which allows you to get that bracing effect from the belt without putting increased pressure on your pelvic floor. So if that's confusing, if that doesn't make any sense, feel free to message me. I'd love to talk about it more. It makes more sense when you can actually talk with someone and have your hands on someone and give someone like hands-on feedback. That can make a lot more sense. So if it doesn't make sense to you, let me know, and I'd love to show you. And then for timeline, when you want to introduce something like this, and it varies. So it varies so much because every woman is very, very unique. Every woman's pregnancy and delivery story and after that postpartum period is very individualized. But generally, I wouldn't recommend reintroducing it earlier than 6 months just because you really want to let that pelvic floor have time to heal and have time to re-strengthen and gradually reintroduce strength work. You don't want to overload the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is a muscle. So similar to if you strained your hamstring, you're not going to go out and run a marathon so say you tore your hamstring, you're probably not going to run a marathon 6 months after you tore it because it's not up to that task just yet. And it's the same thing with the pelvic floor. Giving birth could be similar to tearing a muscle because that's what the pelvic floor is. And if you do something too strenuous too soon, it's going to make it harder for it to heal long term. And that's the goal, is to have incontinence-free, healthy, long-term living. So general rule of thumb, waiting 6 months or plus. Again, it's so individualized. It depends on the woman. how they gave birth, whether it was a C-section or whether it was the baby was delivered vaginally, whether it was instrument assisted. There's a lot of stuff that plays in, and it's very individualized, but I wouldn't recommend starting to really try to play around with it and lift heavy before 6 months, just to set your body up for the best long-term success, so then you can perform and compete to the best of your ability as long as you want, without having any extra symptoms or side effects that you don't want. So yeah, hope that was helpful. Today marks the end of I'm doing a monthly theme of pregnancy and postpartum. So next month we're going to talk all about pull-ups, how to get your first pull-up, how to work on pull-up strength, etc. So stay tuned for that once a week in December, and I hope you'll have a wonderful Thanksgiving and enjoy the time you spend with friends and family.